Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Chad Vaughn. And on today's episode, we have Matt DellaValle, better known as MDV within the CrossFit community. Matt has been around the CrossFit community for a number of years, having held a bunch of different roles, starting out under Ben Bergeron at CrossFit New England a number of years ago, then moving on to Reebok headquarters as the liaison to CrossFit HQ. He was also a coach at One Nation as well as Reebok CrossFit One, now living out on the West Coast, being the CFO under Jason Khalipa and NCFit. In this case, CFO meaning Chief Fitness Officer. He's in charge of basically coaching the coaches for NCFit. We go through a little bit about what that means, what the culture is like over there, what he's trying to instill in the next great up-and-coming coaches that are going through the NCFit program. Matt has a wealth of knowledge. He has a great take on what it means to be a great coach. If you're a coach out there, if you're an owner, I highly recommend listening to this episode. It'll help a lot in terms of creating a better culture wherever you're at. Hope you guys enjoy this one. All right, Matt, MDV, how you doing, man? It's so good to see you again. We're talking a little bit off the air about haven't seen you in a while, so it's good to see your face and hear your voice. How you been?
I've been great. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen either of you guys in person, and I'm happy to be here. Let's talk, man.
Absolutely. So, I know the CrossFit community knows you well. You've had such a variety of roles over the years and have come from such kind of a different background to where you are today. And I just want to talk first about what your official role is right now with NCFit. You're the CFO. Now, I think most people probably don't think of CFO in terms of what you actually do, but you're the Chief Fitness Officer for NCFit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So about 4.5 years ago, I moved from Boston across the country to work with Jason Khalipa over at NCFit. And actually, when I came over, we didn't really have an identified title or role for me. We just knew that I had a skill set that might be valuable to the organization, had a lot of years of coaching, a lot of years on the corporate side at Reebok, working different partnerships and stuff like that. And we thought it would be a good fit. And what that role eventually evolved into was this Chief Fitness Officer role. So what that essentially means is anything within our organization that has to do with a coach, an athlete, a workout, our fitness philosophy, how we do business in terms of fitness, passes under somebody on my team or me at some point. And it's been a wild ride. I can't believe it's been 4.5 years already.
That is crazy. It goes by incredibly fast. And, you came from an opportunity in the Boston area, working under Bergeron for a while at New England, and then working at Reebok and One Nation and all of those great hub of CrossFit. I mean, you were kind of there at the inception of a lot of these, places that people look at as meccas within the CrossFit community. But what took you from the East Coast in a situation that seemed pretty strong, a community that was pretty strong in the Reebok world, and what you had on the East Coast over to Jason? What was something that made you want to make that move and want to work with Jason?
That's a great question. It's a question that I don't think anybody has asked just yet in terms of my journey. So this is going to be a fun one. Looking back on it, I had been working in Boston for since about 2009, and I made the jump over to California in 2017, 2018. So it had been 8 years or so of living and working in Boston. Like you said, a bunch of different roles. I had come up there and originally took a job with Again Faster as director of operations at the time. And then at about the same time I took that role, I met Ben Bergeron, started working full time for him at some point at CrossFit New England, was able to work my way over to Reebok CrossFit One and join the amazingly talented team over there. Coached for a bunch of years there. And then they pulled me into the Reebok HQ building, and they obviously wanted me to help out with some CrossFit Reebok relationship stuff and manage the CrossFit partnership for a while. I got to the point and in working within Reebok when I just missed the community of athletes and missed being more involved on the actual fitness and coaching side of things. I was still coaching lightly at Reebok CrossFit One, and I was part owner of CrossFit One Nation, but I found myself going down this path where I wasn't really fully immersed in the gym culture anymore. I was angling myself in a way that seemed like I was getting further away from the product on the floor, further away from the people, further away from the actual thing that I fell in love with, and more so pursuing these corporate paths. The opportunities that were coming my way at Reebok were great, moving up the ladder at a multinational corporation, being able to rub elbows with a lot of the top people over there. I'm not saying that it wasn't a fantastic opportunity, but, for me, somebody who's been in love with fitness for so many years, I felt myself drifting away from that. And when I was talking to Jason, Jason and I became really fast friends because we share a lot of similar qualities in how we like to work and work out and do business. And we're very driven individuals. And they had this awesome confluence of opportunity where it was like, we have this business that is ready to take off, and we're doing a lot of really unique and fun things where your kind of corporate skill set could lend itself well to some of that stuff. But also we need a lot of help on the ground in figuring out who we are as a training organization again, and kind of better defining our fitness footprint. So it seemed to be the best of both worlds for me. And when I decided to make that jump and come across, I really fell in love with it right away. And it was the best of both worlds for me.
Can you talk a little bit about what you said you and Jason kind of aligned quite a bit in your mentality and the way that you approach fitness? Can you talk a little bit about what those tenets are? Like what are the things that you looked at and say, because Jason obviously has been in the community forever. He's had basically every role there is, and he's been so successful on the business side that, you would think, he has things kind of handled. And bringing you in with your background, it seems like you haven't come from the lawyer world, that all those corporations were pulling you back because of your expertise in that world. And you were like, you know what, I want to get away from that. I want to get more into dealing with the people. And I'm just kind of curious, what is it about Jason? Because he seems like such a big personality and somebody that really just stands out in the community. What was it that you guys align on so well that you were like, this is the right place for me to be?
Yeah. I think down to Jason's core, he's a fantastic human being. He's just somebody who would give you the shirt off of his back 10 out of 10 times if you ask for it. He's one of the hardest working individuals that I've ever known. He's always thinking about how things can be better, improved upon, always challenging not only the team, but himself as well, in a way to, rethink what we might know is the standard way of doing something. And that was really exciting to me. I looked at what Jason was doing with NCFit as this awesome platform or opportunity to come and interject a lot of my thoughts and a lot of the things that I felt about fitness, what I believed is appropriate for coaches and coaching development. Mm-hmm. And, they did have a lot of really talented and amazing trainers when I joined the organization in 2017, 2018. They had a long history of amazing trainers, people like Pat Barber and Molly Vollmer and Miranda Alcaraz, and, just to name a few, a lot of other people as well. And, when I came over, they were kind of at this crossroads because they had a couple of those big people leave. And, the community and the coaches were a little bit lacking for identity at that time and trying to figure out who we were in this new NCFit world. Had been NorCal CrossFit for so many years, and then the transition to NCFit. So me coming across and being able to speak a similar language to Jason, we both had, like I said, similar points of view on fitness. We wanted people to, work out really hard, of course. We wanted people to use intensity as a tool, but we also wanted them just to have a hell of a lot of fun and not be so rigid in the point of view where it always had to be 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups. We didn't believe that. And it really allowed us to become who we are as NCFit right now. So, when I came across, the very first thing that we identified would be an awesome opportunity to add value was, let's just reset the coaching culture here. What does it mean to be a coach at NCFit? And then how do we want to progress that forward and become world leaders in training?
I love that. And it gives us a better perspective of what coaching is at NCFit and what being a member means at NCFit. And I'm curious for you as a coach, as someone that really delves deeply into the culture at gyms and trying to create an environment, like you said, making it fun, right? And making sure that people come there as a way for them to escape for what's going on. But what would you say as a coach and who's someone that's trying to kind of create an environment where people want to continue to come back? What are some of the things that you really look to within a good coach? What do you look for in a coach that is the right fit for maybe an NCFit or just a good coach in general? Are there some things that kind of stick out to you as something that's really critical when you're looking to bring on a new coach?
Yeah, yeah. My thoughts on this have changed pretty drastically over the years, and most of it has come with learning from other people, and then learning through experience of, bringing people onto the team and how do we introduce them into what we do and how we do it, and whether or not people are ultimately successful or do they fall out, and what were the reasons why. We've made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my own coaching career, and I've learned from a lot of those things. And the number one thing that I look for right now in terms of coaches who are going to come on board at NCFit and ultimately hopefully be successful is, do they have an undeniable energy and passion and positivity for what they do? I honestly don't give a fuck what their background is coming in knowing movement. Obviously, I want them to have some sort of basic understanding of human movement and performance, but those are all things that you can learn. You can go out there and you can get education from not only obviously the CrossFit Level 1, the CrossFit Level 2, but there's an array of other amazing organizations out there that teach you what you need to know about human movement, about anatomy, about physiology, about the mechanics of what we do, about what makes great workouts and puts them all together to spit out this fitness that we're all looking for. But you can't teach this idea of energy and positivity and actually caring enough about the job to show up
Mm-hmm.
every day well prepared and ready to rock and roll and leaving your bad day behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Those to me are these really deeply fundamental things that coaches need to bring to the equation, at least in some small measure. Obviously, we can cultivate them a little bit more and we can bring them along. We can help them figure out how do they express themselves in a bigger way when they're on the floor, or how can they figure out how to leave their bad day at the door. But if you have this massive kind of roadblock in terms of ego, where you want to be better than everybody else to the detriment of other people, or you're somebody who is glaringly inconsistent in how you perform or how you act or how you speak to other people, or if you're somebody who just is putting on a show and you come on in and you don't say hello to the front desk person, there's a piece of trash on the ground, you walk on by it, you treat the athlete who's asking you a question like shit, and then you come on up to me and you try to shake my hand, you're like, oh hey, I'm here for the interview. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're here to turn around and leave because you're
Mm-hmm.
not getting a job here. Like, I've learned that the hard way. People come in with these amazing resumes and all these years of how many, where they've coached and what they've done, and all this knowledge, and it ultimately it doesn't mean anything if they're not a good person, if they're not there to work and they know that they can add value and have a value added onto them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those answers, Matt. I mean, I completely agree. The base of all of this is just being a good human first. Basics. Being very knowledgeable on weightlifting, and I think a talented teacher and coach. It's sometimes easy for myself even to overlook those things and get an attitude, with people that I'm up in front of or whatever. And it's a really good reminder of the base of what we do is just being nice, just being nice, not being an asshole, which is not, again, it's not always easy for me to do, as Dave knows. But what do you guys differentiate between NCFit on a local level versus globally? I know you guys reach out, you do a lot of other things, I believe online programming and stuff like that. Do you guys differentiate those two things, or is there work towards making them the same thing, bringing them together? Do you guys bring on international coaches under NCFit?
Yeah, good question. So, the NCFit ecosystem has grown over the years. We started out with just having Bay Area gym locations, and they were CrossFit affiliates at the time. Right now we have 3 gyms in the Bay Area. We have obviously a couple of other things that we do with corporate partnerships and things that have grown over the years. That's kind of our brick and mortar footprint. We've also grown, like you said, into an international training organization in terms of not only the corporate relationship that we have with Western Digital, but we've taken our programming, our session plans, and all the content that we created for our own team in our coaching development platform and allowed other gyms to have access through that in the NCFit collective. So we've got gyms all over the world that follow our session plans, our programming, our coach and athlete videos. And those gyms and those coaches aren't necessarily quote unquote NCFit gyms or NCFit coaches. Like they don't kind of say that as themselves, like, but they are part of the family insofar that they are accessing our material and learning from it and studying it and implementing it in their gyms. We have another, I guess, area of our business that's our NCFit app, which is a training app that allows athletes all over the world to access our programming and our videos and all of our workouts, whether or not it's just our daily workouts that you get to choose from and see what your workout is for that day, or you can follow along in an on-demand type of format, kind of similar to what Peloton does, but this would be for functional training. We don't right now have a means to pull in international trainers and kind of make them NCFit trainers for our organization. We employ international coaches through our corporate relationships, and they coach for us in Singapore and China and Malaysia and a few other places in across the world. But no, we don't have like a, hey, I live in England and I want to be an NCFit coach on your X platform. That's not something we're doing right now.
Nice. You do such an incredible job defining what your coaches are, though, going back to your coaches and what a good coach is. And you do a lot of that on your Instagram page. I love following your IG. I try to look at it regularly because you've got something new to say on a Post-it. So my first question there is where did this IG style of using a Post-it, multiple Post-its per post usually, come from and why?
Yeah. So Instagram and social media in general for me has kind of been like, it's been a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It's been a double-edged sword for me for many, many years. I got on Instagram, I think back in 2014. And my first post actually on Instagram ever was just something that I wrote on a chalkboard, and it was effort over everything. And I've always been that type of person who likes to write down, whether or not it's self-affirmations or motivational sayings or just notes in general. I have like tons and tons of old notebooks where I'm old school. I like to write everything down. I don't like to take a lot of notes on my phone. I don't take a lot of notes on my computer. I actually like the physical pen and paper. So, back in January of this year, 2021, I had been off of Instagram completely for about 3.5 years for personal reasons. And
congratulations.
Well, I was on, but I was like kind of lurking in the shadows, communicating with people who I wanted to keep in touch with, but I wasn't, I had 0 posts in those 3 years. And I was just reflecting on my time at NCFit and, where we were going, what I was doing, and was I doing enough for the organization to really look back proudly and say, hey, I did everything I could to make this successful, to make myself into the best fitness professional I could be. And I was able to put a lot of things in the column where I was really proud of my effort and what I had done. And there was some stuff on the other side of the equation where I looked at and I was like, fuck, man, like you're not doing anything in regards to these things over here. And one of those things towards the top of the list was, you're not spreading the message of what your philosophy on fitness or coaching or what NCFit's philosophy through me is on social media. It's just silence. And I looked at other influential people out there, or other people who had something to say, and they were using this platform in a really meaningful way that was adding a lot of value for their organizations or adding a lot of value for who they were in the fitness world. And I just told myself, I was like, you got to fucking get over this, man. You got to figure out a way to get over this neurosis of not wanting to showcase who you are on social media and use it as a platform to help educate or help entertain or help inspire people. And I just decided literally January 1st, 2021, I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm going at this full bore. Like, I attack everything else. It's going to be uncomfortable as hell, but I'm going to figure out how to make it work. And what I fell into eventually was this concept of using Post-its with, 3 inches by 3 inches to convey ideas. And there were, there's some other people out there who do something similar. My buddy Jason Ackerman, he holds up the iPad with the, his thoughts and his sayings on it. I've got better handwriting than Jason, so
of course,
I can rock and roll on the Post-its. But they've seemed to resonate with people. And a lot of times if I'm talking about coaching and professional development, I'm trying to spread a message of, hey, this is what I think we could be as a group, as a community. And I want to rise the tides for everybody. I don't just want NCFit trainers to be better. I want all trainers to be better, because I truly believe that in that ecosystem, we all do better. But if I'm putting something up that's motivational, or something about reflecting on, your effort, or reflecting on whether or not you have a level of discipline in terms of reaching your goals, that's just me talking to myself. Like, I'm always talking to myself. And, sometimes people get on in the comments and be like, oh, you're like preachy or whatever. I'm just like, yeah, I'm preaching to my fucking self though. Like, I need this as much as anybody else. So, the Post-its have been a fun way to express myself. A little hack. It also allows me not to just take a stupid picture of myself, like as a selfie, and post the caption that I want to post. It's just an easier vehicle for me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I almost want to steal it from you, because I mean, I need as many ideas as I can get. I mean, as you said, social media, I mean, Dave and I have talked about this so many times. It's really, really tough. It's a blessing and a curse, really. I mean, it's such a huge platform to be able to express yourself, to put out information, to get business and everything else like that. And it's necessary, but it definitely can drag you down and get in your way sometimes. Now, what, if you can kind of pull something out of your brain here, what is maybe your favorite Post-it that you've done for coaches specifically so far? What is kind of your go-to number one or number two saying that you use?
Oh gosh. Well, I think my number one saying of all time right now is effort over everything. For me, that is a tremendous rallying cry in terms of what I think the human potential is, what I think people should focus on when they walk into the gym, what I think coaches should think about as they're going about this coach's journey, is just letting your results be defined by your effort and not anything else. Not necessarily putting the results on a pedestal, but almost falling in love with the process and showing up every single day and just giving everything that you have into the process. And that does not mean necessarily killing yourself every single day. That means on days when you show up and you might need a little bit of a rest or recovery, that you're smart enough to take a step back and go, this is the best effort that I can give today. And that's what I'm going to give. So that to me is really, really important, no matter if we're talking about the athletic side of the equation or the coaching side of the equation. The other one that really stands out for me are these calls to actions about just being more professional in terms of being a fitness trainer or a coach. And there's people out there and there's organizations out there that shit on being a professional coach for many, many years. And now all of a sudden it's very like in vogue to be out there and go, oh yeah, we want you to be a professional coach as well. We've been talking about this for years and years and years. And, I think that in terms of professionalism, some of the stuff that stands out to me is like, I just want to get rid of this type of like being on my phone during class, eating while coaching, having my shoes untied or being in flip-flops, or rolling up to the gym and being late or being unprepared, or looking like you just, you're wearing the pajamas from the night that you slept in to show up and coach your 5 a.m. class. Like all of those things, to me, it's wild, because you start to look at other fitness professionals around us. I got this Peloton bike back here, and, imagine one of those instructors rolling up to their class and being late. That would never happen. Or rolling up to their class and eating chicken and broccoli while they're administering a class, or, showing up looking like they just rolled out of bed. We don't have to be Peloton. I'm not saying that, but there is a certain level of professionalism that I think we need to bring to this equation if we want the greater community to stop looking at people who are fitness professionals and going, are you just a fucking gym rat? Or you just like to show up to the gym every day and work out for 3 hours? No, that's not the case. Like, we are the most important health and fitness influencers in people's lives, bar none. You know, I say this a lot. How many minutes a year do you spend with your doctor? Maybe 120, maybe. That's like the max. You probably go to him 2 or 3 times a year. You see him for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then you're gone. With fitness coaches, with fitness professionals, you know, you have athletes in your gym. Let's take the low average. Let's say twice a week for 1 hour. You're already beating the doctor in 1 week of what you can impact on that person and how much time you spend with them. So it's a hugely, hugely important role. And I just want people to respect the role, to treat it as if it is a profession. And that doesn't mean you can't have fun with it. Being professional and having fun aren't mutually exclusive. You can still have a hell of a lot of fun and be a professional.
This brings up kind of an interesting point. One being, you're saying that certain gyms or entities or coaches out there were embracing this mentality of being unprofessional up to fairly recently?
I don't want to say embracing it, but I do think that, you know, how things came around in CrossFit, certainly. It was a very informal environment when
the
things
box,
first started. You know, the box,
four
the
walls,
garage, four walls, dogs running everywhere, you know, people, you know, garage doors flying open, and, you know, it's just the gyms maybe being a little bit unkempt or whatever. You can live that life if you want to. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong if you are constantly making the decision that, hey, this is the type of fitness experience that I want to bring to my athletes. That's fine. I do think that in general, if you have some gyms over here who call themselves one thing and they are administering their program like that, and then you have another gym over here that calls themselves the same thing and they administer their program very, very differently, it's very confusing for athletes. They don't know the difference between, why is this one thing called CrossFit or NCFit over here, and this one thing called CrossFit and NCFit. Very different. I do think it's kind of time, and, you know, the industry has changed a little bit, and, you know, the bar is raised. There's a better way, in my opinion, to do things than how we started off. And I just think we need to step it up.
Yeah, and I heard you speaking with Jason, another podcast, just two of you guys talking about the unpaid coach. And it seems like this could kind of fall into that same category where, you know, you have the unpaid coach being at the gym and that person feeling like, well, I'm only going to give this amount of effort because I am what I am here. And I'm being, I'm being paid in, you know, a barter system or my membership or whatever it might be. And so maybe I'll show up a little bit late because it's okay. Like, I can give up my membership because of it. Is that kind of a factor in there as well, would you say?
Yeah, I think that was really common early on. I mean, you guys have been around the community for fucking years. You know, the fact that, like, a lot of coaches early on just bartered memberships for coaching, right? Like, be like, hey, you're really good at this. You like to hang out at the gym a whole lot. Do you want to coach for me? And you get a free membership. I think it might have worked back in the day. I don't think it works as well now. I think the standard to which we want to coach at demands somebody who is a little bit more invested in the process, who actually has expectations and roles and responsibilities that they can live up to. You know, when you barter with somebody for something, they're not being paid. You know, you're now just saying, I'll trade you this for this. So it becomes much harder to have conversations with that person about the types of standards that you want to uphold, or the responsibilities that go into coaching that don't just start at minute 0 and end at minute 60. You know, you might tell that person, hey, part of your responsibility is to show up and you have to look a certain way. You have to be prepared with a certain amount of material. And what they'll look at you and go is, well, I'm not working for you. I just kind of barter my membership to be on the floor here for a couple hours a week. It's a misaligned expectation. It makes it really hard to get that person, you know, fully invested or involved in their role. So that's just my thought on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Mhm.
right now, like one of the things that Chad and I talk about quite a bit is, especially during pandemic, it was a little bit harder, but sharpening of the tool of being a coach and how important it is to actually be in front of people.
Yeah.
Because, we're technicians, we love kind of breaking down movement, and that's kind of where our specialty lies. But we're always learning and we're always trying to become better at it, and it helps to be in front of people. You, as someone that's training coaches, do you find value still in being in front of people? Do you coach today? And kind of how do you continue to be a part of that coaching conversation? I'm just kind of curious if you actually are doing that anymore.
Yeah. So I'm very deeply involved in all of our programming, all the creation of our coaching tools, all of the videos and the content that go out to all of our athletes. I'm currently, this second, I am not coaching within an NCFit gym on a regular schedule. Now, when I go down there, I'll pick up classes. I live up in the Pacific Northwest right now. We have local gyms around here who follow our programming, which I've been in touch with them, and I want to get back on the floor and start coaching on a more regular schedule. But a lot of my roles and responsibilities now are in the creation of content or in administering or managing the team in some of that stuff. So I miss it a whole lot. I really do. I think that it is something that is necessary to stay sharp. You should be practicing coaching, especially if you're going to go out there and kind of posit yourself as being a coach of athletes. Yeah, you have to practice that skill set.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my work right now is coaching other coaches through experience or the years that I've been doing this. And then also kind of helping NCFit navigate where we're going to go as a fitness organization.
Mm-hmm.
Through the pandemic, I think it was very, very hard. I did coach through the pandemic a lot of virtual classes, and I coached a lot of pre-recorded classes that we eventually put onto the NCFit app. And some of that stuff is a bit more performance-based than it is necessarily technical, especially when you're leading on-demand classes and you're in front of a camera. You're doing a little bit more of fitness entertainment in terms of your coaching role, quote unquote. You're there to provide an engaging experience, start to finish, of an athlete who's going to watch this video and do the workout alongside you while you're guiding them on certain points of performance or things to watch out for. So there's an element of coaching, but it's not necessarily like overtly coaching as if you were leading a class on the floor. And even Zoom classes, I did a bunch of those. We had Zoom classes weekly for a number of different communities through the NCFit network. And I led a lot of those. And it's difficult because you're trying to engage with the people and you're trying to get them motivated and you want them to, feel the vibe of the community. It's hard. It's very hard to create that connection through a camera. And the best way that we found to do it was to take a step back from the technical aspects a little bit. Yeah, we're going to demonstrate the movements. We're going to give you something to focus on for each one of the movements. But the majority of the time that we're running these virtual classes is we are very heavily invested in making sure you have a good time and that you're engaged and you get a great workout. Now, obviously, when you're taking a class within a gym, those things are primary. You of course want to have a good time, have a great work and be motivated. But the amount of instruction and drilling and technical feedback that you'll get in a good gym, hopefully, is in line with that, right? Like you're going to learn something. You're definitely going to get some feedback from the coach. They're going to interact with you in a way that's very intimate. They'll be right there with you. And then you're going to get your great workout. There's that intimate interaction really isn't there through Zoom. And we didn't want to force it. We didn't want to say, all right, hey, Dave, you know what you can do? Can you please stand up? Can you pull your hips a little closer to the camera so that you can squat for me? And I just want to see if you're getting the full depth. No, we didn't do any of that bullshit. We solely focused on creating as an engaging of an experience as possible.
Were you by any chance taking, because you pointed out the Peloton behind you, and Peloton probably does that better than anyone in terms of coaching virtually. And we have a bunch of friends from our New York time and being based out there that are Peloton instructors. Some have come out to our Power Monkey camp, and we know a lot of them. I was actually with a bunch of them over the weekend, and
very cool.
One of the things that we know about them is that a lot of them, this goes back to maybe a comment you made earlier about how good they are in terms of engagement. And they're performers in a lot of ways. They're not cyclists. They're not runners. That's not their background. Mm-hmm. Their background is in acting and performing and dance and being in front of a camera. And it's allowing them to connect virtually at the highest level with the person that's on the other end of that camera. And so it sounds like you're maybe taking some of what has been successful for them, and instead of being a technician through the camera, creating an environment that allows that person to get the best workout possible, have fun, sweat, and be able to say, all right, that was a fun hour, even though I was doing it virtually.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Completely accurate. We begged, borrowed, and stole a lot of the techniques from Peloton in how we were administering our virtual classes, and then how we would go about, if we were to do on-demand classes, what would the most important aspects of the presentation be? You'd be silly not to study what those amazingly talented people did, because they do it better than anybody else. And, here's the thing. Nobody wants to take a fucking boring class. No matter if it's in a virtual environment, certainly you do not want to take a boring class in a virtual environment, because there's no level of interaction or technique or knowledge that the coach is going to inject into you that will save a boring virtual class. Boring is boring. And like, you lose somebody in the first 30 seconds of a video. And that was from a consultant who I worked with in chatting through some of this stuff. She was like, if you don't win the person over in the first 30 seconds of the video, they're gone. Mm-hmm. So that was something we focused on. But even in terms of our on the floor presentation, our in-person presentation, our coaches are very technically sound, and they're amazingly talented when it comes to coaching, teaching, seeing, correcting human movement. But that cannot be the sole thing that they rely on. We want them to go out there and to administer a class that's fun and filled with energy and positivity, because our athletes are certainly there to be coached, but they're also there to have a good time, get a great workout, and sweat, and leave their bad day at the door. So, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If I was faced with two coaches and I had somebody who was a 10 on the energy and positivity scale and a 5 on the knowledge and technician side, versus a coach who was a 10 on the knowledge and technician side and a 5 on the energy and positivity side, 10 out of 10 times I'm going with the person who's the 10 on the energy and positivity side, because I know I can get that person to slowly take their technical skills and move on up. The person
you're not changing personality. Yeah.
Very, very, very hard to do. Very hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
I wonder, as you're talking through this and talking about learning from Peloton, which I think is genius, and it makes perfect sense. I honestly never even thought about that before. If I'm going to do some virtual stuff, I need to look at who's doing it the best. And they certainly are. In learning all that stuff and trying to apply it, through Zoom or through the videos that you do with NCFit, have you found it hard for yourself to make that transition into being what needs to be in that moment versus what you did for so many years in person, which, like you said, is more technical?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't as hard. I have a good amount of experience with speaking in front of groups or presenting at bigger groups, or being in front of a camera for Reebok, or the things that we did through CrossFit New England, where we were talking to gym owners or coaches. And there was always this idea that I had to be the bigger version of myself. Even in my own coaching, when I lead a group class, I am the bigger version of myself. And, to me, that's really important. I'm an introvert. Like I'm, when the cameras are off and I'm not coaching and I'm not in front of athletes, I'm a more introverted type of person. I really enjoy being at home and being with my fiance and our dog and just hanging out at the house and chilling. Like I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go out at night to the club and be the center of attention and want to chat and talk to everybody. That's not my bag at all. But I love turning it on when it's time to go and it's time to coach and it's time to be in front of athletes, or if it's time to coach coaches or talk about things like this. I get really excited. So I'm kind of like an introvert who can turn on the extroverted personality. But we did have some coaches, we certainly had some coaches who dove in headfirst right away. And they were like, I love this. This is a challenge for me. This is an aspect of my personality I know I can bring out. I know I can be a bigger version of myself and I can bring that energy. but it also wasn't for everybody. We had a lot of people who struggled with it, and some people worked through that struggle and they were able to refine their skills and kind of change their presentation a little bit. And then some other people, it doesn't make them a bad person. It just wasn't their strongest skill set. They were better in person than they were in front of the camera. I've noticed that as I've gone through this kind of career in coaching, that's one thing that's very interesting, is like, you can have the best coach in the world and even have the person with the best personality, but when the camera goes on, it's not always the case that same person can translate that energy and that knowledge directly to the camera. The camera changes everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually look up to Dave for this. He's one of the best that I've seen in front of a camera.
Dave is good.
I struggle with it a little bit, man. I keep trying to practice and get better myself because I am a little bit different. And I mean, if someone's filming me coaching a Power Monkey station, I'm fine, right? Because I'm up in front of people. But if it's just straight in front of the camera, just me and the camera, I really struggle with that. Now, my question along with that, especially for those that struggled with being up in front of a camera and trying to maybe be a little bit different for the situation, and they overcame it, did you find that they actually became a better in-person coach from this different experience?
Hell yeah. I think that ability to tap into that bigger version of yourself and to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and to work a weakness, to really go, I can't rely on my technical ability, or I can't rely on those interactions that I'm going to have hand to hand with a member and fixing or correcting their movement. I have to now tap into something that's different. Those skills didn't go away once the cameras turned off and they go into coach their normal classes. Now you're able to access that skill set. So, this is a great example. On a day when we have a workout that isn't as technically sophisticated, maybe a workout that's, more defined by simpler movements or body weight movements. Those are the kinds of days when a coach shows up to the gym, and sometimes you'll see a coach that'll be like, oh, shit, I got to coach Cindy today. Like I got to coach the pull up, the push up, and the squat. And they, all of a sudden, all the energy from them just drains out because they're not coaching the clean, or they're not coaching the snatch, or they're not coaching the rope climb or the muscle up or whatever. But to be able to tap into that aspect of your personality where you get fucking fired up, no matter what the workout is, and you're able to make that the best workout that could possibly be programmed that day. That's an amazing gift for your athletes. It's such a, this gets me fired up because it's such a disservice for your athletes to be somebody who they look up to be the person that they are literally taking their hard-earned money and paying into, and then to go up in front of the whiteboard and to talk about a workout like you don't give a shit about it, or that this workout, I don't even know why we programmed this workout today. Like we got to do 20 minutes of pull-ups, push-ups, and squats. Why don't you guys go head out for a 400-meter run and then, get your bands and we'll do the workout. How silly is that? How selfish is that for the coach who's leading at the front of the room to do that to the athletes who are there to have the best hour of their day? Your athletes are always going to respond to your energy. And if you can go out there and you can make them feel like this is going to be the most fun, we're going to get the best workout, we're going to learn a thing or two, we're going to dive into the fundamentals of these movements. Or hell, I'm even going to teach you guys how to cycle these movements like a pro today. Man, that just changed the whole dynamic of that class. And instead of your athletes kind of rubbing elbows with one another and going, man, why do we even come to the gym today? They're all going to be high-fiving and thanking one another for showing up that day and having the best workout, even though it might not have been your favorite personal workout.
All right, I'm ready to take one of your classes, Matt. I'm coming up.
Let's go do Cindy.
Yeah,
I love Cindy, baby. Let's go.
I just did it for 30 days straight. I just did Murph. I did Murph 30 days straight, but I did Murph Cindy style. So I just finished yesterday. So
yesterday was your last day.
Yeah.
Does it feel weird? So you're off today. It's going to feel really weird.
Yeah. I'm off today.
do you feel pretty good, Dave? Just out of curiosity, we hadn't talked about this much on the podcast. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I am. My hands did not tear. I can't believe it.
Nice.
And my knee actually started feeling better halfway through. So I actually feel great. My fastest time was like day 26, and I finished with my last 3 days of my fastest time. So Yeah, it was a fun challenge. I'm glad I'm not doing it today, but it was fun to actually be able to stay with it the entire time.
Yeah,
I've seen a few
yeah.
people do that in the
Mhm.
community, the 30 days of Murph.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Jordan was just like, asked me, "You want to do 30 days of Murph?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure." So I couldn't even think about it. I was like, "Why did I agree to this?" So then we were traveling, went to Mexico, went to LA, went all over Tennessee twice, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, maybe find another challenge." I think Hinshaw said my next one should be just doing a 5K every day for a month. So
There you go.
I'm considering the 5K now. We'll
Well,
see. Chad, you got to do that one with me.
you've been running enough. You're
I
ready to
know,
go for
yeah.
that.
I'm
Just, hey,
60
just
miles of running.
jump right into that today. No rest. No
No,
rest.
you got to do the next one with me, Chad. So you got to do one.
Well, then let's pick something different than running. How about we do a snatch every day? How about that? We'll do that.
Okay.
No, well, but it is an interesting challenge, and now that we're on the topic, I wonder, Matt, you being in the community for so long, I mean, it is honestly a touchy subject and question. I mean, you're going to have a lot of people out there, a lot of coaches out there that are going to say, Dave shouldn't be putting this out there. Dave shouldn't be, making this okay for other people to do. I don't necessarily agree with that, because when I see it, it's very inspiring. It makes me want to do it. It really makes me want to do it. And I think that there's benefit in doing challenges like this. But on the other side of that, if I were to do it, and if I'm going to be smart, I'm not prepared to do all those pull-ups for that many days in a row. I just don't have that capacity right now. I have not been practicing for that. Right. So I would need to do, ring rows or something different in place of that to complete the 30-day challenge appropriately. What are your thoughts on him putting it out in general and other people trying to do it?
Yeah, I love the fact that he went out there and he did something that challenged him or made him uncomfortable. And I really enjoy seeing those kinds of things get put out there. Now, obviously, I think that there's a limit. There are some things that I've seen, I'm just like, that probably might not be smart, even for the person who's doing it. But, that's their own license and their own life. And I'm not going to tell them that they can't do it. But in terms of other athletes looking at it and going, well, what do I get out of that? I think that more often than not, you're going to see athletes that are inspired by those kinds of things that go, oh, wow, he really pushed himself outside of his comfort zone and was challenging himself to do something. Maybe I should think about doing something that pushes me out of my comfort zone. Maybe not necessarily doing that.
Right.
And this kind of comes back to this whole RX versus scaled conversation that comes up a lot too, because I truly believe that coaches and athletes, they need to communicate with one another in a way that the athlete understands what's the best version or the best route that they should take that day based on how they feel, what their goals are, and where they're at in their fitness journey. And it doesn't matter what's written down on the whiteboard. The coach and the athlete should make that decision together, and you should have that whiteboard there as a frame of reference for what the stimulus of the workout is. But hey, let's think about what works best for you. And let's talk about the loading, the repetitions, and the volume overall in this workout. And that's the same thing with a challenge like Dave is doing or putting out there. If somebody sees that, what they should, the thought process in their head should be, oh, cool. I want to do something like that. But what's the best version of that challenge for me that stays within my goals and my fitness journey and how I'm currently situated. So congratulations on doing it.
Thank you.
I've been challenged to do it by somebody, and oh gosh, now I'm putting it out there. I probably have to do it.
There you go.
No, I completely agree with that. It doesn't have to be the same challenge. It's about something that's challenging for you, but doable, right? Something that forces you to say, you know what, I'm not feeling great today, but I'm going to push through and see if I can create a mental challenge for myself and actually do it in a situation where otherwise I'd go back to bed. And I mean, I don't look at David Goggins and say, I got to run 50 days of marathons every day just because he's doing it. I'm saying he's able to push himself beyond a point of what he thinks he's capable of doing. Let me see if I can create a similar type of challenge for myself. And I think that's kind of the goal with it. It's not saying everyone should do Murph for 30 days. It's not saying everyone should run a marathon every day for whatever. It's find something that pushes you a little bit more than you think you're capable of handling, and within reason, right? It should be something that you're not going to get injured doing. It's not going to be something that, you're going to want to stop halfway through and never want to do it again, or quit CrossFit or find a new trainer. It's about challenging yourself and then overcoming and saying, you know what, I'm better because I actually did something I didn't think I was capable of.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I think the difference there, and this comes back to Chad's question a little bit, if Dave had gone out there and put himself in the arena and said, everybody who follows me, I don't care what your fitness background is. I don't care where you come from, what you do this challenge. You do it exactly like I say I'm going to do it. You do it for 30 days and don't be a little whatever about it. That to me is a complete misguided approach. And
Absolutely.
that will get people hurt and injured and force people into an equation that they shouldn't be in. And that's the issue that I have with some coaches and how they discuss how a workout is written when it's written prescribed. And this rigidity in looking at something going, it can only be done this way. Highway. Like that to me, it's just such bullshit, man.
Yeah.
It's not the right
way. I agree with you. Yeah. That RX thing is such a challenge too, because it just tries to build off of the competitiveness of people, right? Because if we have this standardized, everybody's doing the same thing, so I can compare myself against the person next to me and the other person doing the same workout down the block. But really, is that workout appropriate for you and where you're at? And that's what we need to find. Find that you're getting the stimulus out of that what's intended, but you come back today and do it again. And you know what I mean? That's what we need to find. And what you're bringing up is such a great point. And I find the biggest challenge is, again, finding the right coach to be able to communicate that to the athlete. And so that they're all on the same page. So that the coach has the trust of the athlete and the athlete has the trust of the coach to say, this is written as prescribed, but I know you as an athlete. You need to change this particular movement a little bit because, you know, your range is not there, your strength is not there, and we need to make sure that you're still getting the right stimulus, but you're going to be able to come back stronger tomorrow. So that's why being a coach who has actually engaged with their athletes is so critical, in my opinion.
Yeah, not having such a fundamental approach to everything. Like, I think there's this huge danger in looking at everything, especially in fitness, which is so fucking comical to me that people go, fitness can only be this one way. You can only do this workout this one way with this one weight and this one type of movement. That's laughable to me, man. And I think that's a really closed-minded way to look at something. Yeah, we have workouts written a certain way with certain weights associated with them to describe or provide a certain stimulus. But you can take that workout and you can change it a million different ways to make it appropriate for nearly anybody in the world. And in my opinion, that's what you should do. But when you get stuck in this fundamental mindset that we can only go this direction and any other direction is wrong, you know, in reality, I think that's a big part of what's just wrong with society right now, is that everybody just looks at everything as being a zero-sum game. And if it's not my opinion, my way, it's the highway. There's a million different ways that we can approach this thing. And it should, in my opinion, be, hey, this is the workout. This is the intended stimulus. Now let's figure out together what's the best expression of that for you today. Let's go.
Yep. It's extremely limiting, you know, that kind of thinking. And that kind of thinking, for going back to what I was saying about the way that I know some people will take Dave's challenge or anyone that's doing that challenge. And I'm glad that we're talking about this, because there might be someone out there that hears that was intimidated by that challenge, that now has permission, quote unquote, permission to do their own challenge, to modify it. Like I said, when I thought about it, I'm absolutely going to not do those pull-ups. You know, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do something different. And to both of your points, you have to find your own challenge. How do you need to adjust it, do something completely different? But the major point is dedicating yourself to the challenge that you accept and following through with it. And so once again, Dave, congrats and hats off. 30 days.
Thank you, man.
Impressive. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Yeah, it was a couple rough days there in the middle, as you might imagine.
For sure. But,
you know, 60 miles of running, 3,000 pull-ups, 6,000 air squats, 9,000 air squats, 6,000 push-ups. It's a lot over the course of the month. And just glad I was able to actually maintain it. It was,
and you've got the math down. So congrats on that as well.
I know. Tell me about it. Yeah, that was the hardest part. Yeah, I think I'm going to do some muscle ups and back squats today and handstand push-ups. That's what I'm going to be doing today. So time to upgrade.
There you go.
Matt, I want to actually spend more time talking, because I feel like we've been talking so much about just coaching and everything. I wanted to ask you, you have a couple additional minutes?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
All right. I just want to change gears a little bit and talk a little bit about all the changes that have happened with CrossFit and talk a little bit about the competitive side. And mostly because, NCFit in the past and Jason's background being an athlete, and the team was such a big part of NorCal back in the day. And I'm curious, and we just finished the games, this is basically the week post games. I'm curious if there is any still thought within NCFit to have a competitive side of what you guys are doing. Are you guys purely in the realm of coaching everyday athletes? That's where our kind of focus is. Or do you guys have any intentions to get back into the competitive side of things?
No, great question. Yeah, obviously the 2021 CrossFit Games just wrapped up. We crowned a new male champion in Justin Medeiros, and then Tia continues to reign supreme on the ladies side.
Yep.
So I think for Jason can speak for himself, but I kind of think that Jason is done for now in the CrossFit Games arena.
Sure.
He's done some other stuff. He does Wadapalooza every now and again. He did the Legends event over at Rogue. He had a hell of a lot of fun doing that. It was interesting to see him flip that switch again when he was getting ready for the Rogue Legends Invitational. I mean, he went hard in the paint. Probably trained harder for that than anybody else trained for it, and it showed. He did an amazing job.
He's ridiculous when it comes to working out too. Like, I remember going to NorCal a couple of times, and he'd write a workout that was just absurd up on the board, and then in the middle of the workout he would change it and be like, just kidding, not 4 rounds, 12 rounds, and be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like,
every time he coaches Fight Gone Bad at the gym, you go into it knowing you're probably doing 5 rounds today. Like, he's going to say it's 3, but then he's going to pull we're doing an additional 2 rounds today for the championship version.
I love it.
Yeah. He's a fit dude, man. Still very, very fit. In terms of like the greater organization, we don't discourage anybody from competing. We love that. If that's part of what your goals are and you want to put that amount of effort into it and you want to go and test yourself in the arena, I think that there's huge value in doing that. And we have a program called NC Compete, which is one of our 4 main programs. So for us, it's a perfect blend of how we want to service the competitor community. So our number one goal is to make sure that athletes are coming in and experiencing the community and experiencing class workouts and having a really great time doing their GPP, their general physical preparedness program. But around that, we've built a competitors program, which that is the main linchpin of it all. So the number one thing that our competitors do in their training day is we expect them to take that class, to do that workout. And if you're in the Bay Area and you're an NCFit member, we highly encourage that you do it as part of the class environment, because we want you invested in the community. There's nothing worse to me than walking into a gym and going, all right, well, the class is over here doing the workout that's on the board. And then you have this group of 6 people over here that are doing the competitors only program. And, they're bouncing barbells off the walls and everybody's kind of looking over the shoulder, like, what the heck's going on over there? Having the competitors as being integral and important members and just being a part of the experience is so hugely important. And then we have a couple of other things that we've added to that program, the NC Compete program, that rounds out their training in a way that gets them ready for competition. And we are solely focusing on online competition or local competition. So the kind of end of our training spectrum is competitions like the Open. We're not trying to prepare people for the games. So everyday athletes who want to test themselves locally, or people who have aspirations to put themselves into the Open every year, that's our bread and butter. That's who we're working with. The kinds of tests that you're going to see at the 2021 CrossFit Games, we do not try to mimic those or train people for those. We're solely focused on that kind of, I don't want to say lower bar, but that bar that ends at the online competition.
Makes sense. And what about you personally, fitness wise? Do you have any specific goals that you're trying to work towards right now?
Well, the 30-day challenge.
30-day challenge. Yeah. You agreed to it now. It's already it's on the agenda.
That's going to be, gotta have to check that off the list at one point. I actually am doing a 30-day challenge right now that I put out for the month of August, which was just something that I wanted to put out there to anybody who wanted to do something that was very, very simple and they could accomplish, and anybody could do it. So it was pick one thing in your nutrition, and for the next 31 days, make sure that you are relentless in making a commitment to that one thing, just one thing. I don't want 10 things. I just want you to pick one thing, and it can be small. It could be, hey, I don't want to drink any soda, or it can be big where I'm going to weigh and measure my food, but don't put multiple things on the list. The second thing was every day at some point, you're going to get 40 reps of a pushing movement and 40 reps of a pulling movement. So it could be a pull-up or a push-up or a ring row or a handstand push-up or whatever. However you get them done, you can do them from your knees, upright, any level of fitness, just get them in. And then go for a 40-minute walk. So it was 40, 40, 40, 40 reps, 40-minute walk. And then the third thing, this is the toughest one for some of us, was just be a good person. Just try to take a step back and look at your life and look at how you treat yourself and treat other people, and try to just take that and notch it up just a little bit.
That should be number one on the list.
Yeah.
Well, you had me convinced to do the challenge until you said I had to be a good person. So
you're never gonna change.
Probably out of that challenge.
No, that's it's been fun. We got people, all over the world who are participating in that, so it's been kind of cool.
Excellent.
Fitness wise, for me, I am solely using fitness now as a vehicle to train for life and, live my life outside the walls of the gym and be able to go on hikes and participate in sports and whatever I want to do. And the other thing is I'm very into jujitsu right now, and I do jujitsu multiple times per week, and training supplements that.
Awesome. That sounds great, Matt. Well, you mentioned being up in the Pacific Northwest, and I think we're fairly close neighbors now, so maybe we can get some sessions in together sometime soon.
100%. I would love that. Yeah. That'd be awesome. We'll get together. We'll do Murph.
Why not?
I got a place where I know we can get that done. Before we get you out of here, some quick questions that we always like to ask our guests. First one, what sport or discipline you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Oh my goodness. What do I prefer?
Yes.
I prefer gymnastics.
Yes. And we're back.
Toes to bar all day. Pull-ups all day.
What's your background with sport? What'd you grow up doing?
I was a wrestler in high school, and then I was an ocean lifeguard for 8 summers. And I got to fitness really early on and did a ton of calisthenics. So I was just a pull-up.
Wrestling and gymnastics has a lot of crossover. We have a lot of wrestlers that do gymnastics and vice versa. So can see that. Sorry, Chad.
Well, another check against me there. I thought I was on the comeback trail, but it's all right.
Yeah, you got Vellner yesterday, gymnast. Yeah. Last time who was former gymnast saying weightlifting. I was like, come on.
The first gymnast to say weightlifting, but we've had plenty of weightlifters say gymnastics, so I had to eat that one up.
Next question. Any guests that you think would be good for us to have on the podcast?
Ooh, I don't know. Have you talked to Marcus Philly yet?
We have. Yes. We had Marcus on a little while ago. He's great.
Marcus is fantastic.
He's brilliant. Yeah.
He's one of my favorite people to talk to and listen to. You look at the guy and you go, all right, that guy's just a meathead. And he's just
not at all.
No, not at all. He's a very, very astute and smart guy.
Yeah. Smart. Maybe have him on for a second one.
Yeah. Well, we haven't had Khalipa on yet. Actually, we need to get.
I know we got to get Jason on.
Jason would be a great guest as well.
Yeah.
Any books you've come across that you'd recommend to our listeners?
Oh yeah, I have one book that I recommend to nearly everybody who's pursuing their coaching career or even any sort of non-traditional path is a book called Turning Pro, by Stephen Pressfield. Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. He also wrote The War of Art, which is another fantastic book. They're only about this thick, so they're not very long reads at all, but Turning Pro is my number one recommended read. Another great book is Dichotomy of Leadership by Leif Babin and Jocko Willink. I thought that book was outstanding.
Nice.
Excellent.
Thank you for those recommendations. We'll add those to the list for sure. I don't know how if any of our listeners out there actually get through all of these books, please let us know. We need to send you some sort of prize.
You just see my bedstand. I have, it's like I can't even get to my alarm clock now. There's like a stack of books there that I'm chipping away at.
If I read all the books that are recommended on this show, Dave, I would never get to do any writing myself. So I got to kind of hold off a little bit. But Matt, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us, man. You're keep doing what you're doing. You're such a great example and spokesperson for what the coaches really should be. Really a great reminder, and it really caused me to do a lot of reflection today on the coach that I turned into when I was coaching CrossFit, because I was doing basically all those things you were kind of preaching against, and and it's just a good reminder of what we should be and what we're all capable of doing, and really the base of that coming back to just being a good person and being fun and nice to other people within those classes. So I really appreciate that reminder, and I know that there are coaches out there listening right now that needed to hear just that. And so I appreciate that. Any parting words or anything you got coming up you want folks to know about?
Well, first of all, Chad, that was amazingly kind of you. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the time that you allowed me to share with you here today. No, if you want to hear more from me, at MDV_FIT on Instagram. That's a really great place to kind of see what's going on in my brain and going on in my life. And then at NC.fit on Instagram to check out what we're doing with NCFit. So no, those are the places that you can find me, and it's been a pleasure, fellas.
Awesome. Well, to our listeners, be sure to check out Matt's IG and read through those Post-it notes. They'll be well worth your time for sure. Also, be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Also, check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Ollie Chad. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your host. I'm Chad Vaughn with Dave Durante. And until next time, thank you all for listening.